Oh, hello, great readers. I'm Belchan.
I'm Nimakong.
I'm Banchan.
In this class, I'll read to all of you a part of Great Expectations.
As.
Oh.
Great Expectations. Charles Dickens. Chapter 45 Sec 1. Turning from the temple gate as soon as I had read the warning, I made the best of my way to Fleet Street, and there got a late hackney chariot and drove to the Hammams in Covent Garden. The knight and the chamberlain, letting me in at his ready wicket, lighted the candle next in order on his shelf, and showed me straight into the bedroom next in order on his list. It was a sort of vault on the ground floor at the back, with a despotic monster of a four-post bedstead in it, straddling over the whole place, putting one of his arbitrary legs into the fireplace and another into the doorway, and squeezing the wretched little washing stand in quite a divinely righteous manner, as I had that for a nightlight. The chamberlain had brought me in, before he left me, walking king, which instantly broke its back if it were touched, which nothing could ever be lighted at, and which was placed in solitary confinement at the bottom of a heightened tower, perforated with round holes that made a startlingly wide-awake pattern on the walls. When I had got into bed, and lay there footsore, way, and wretched, the eyes of this foolish Argus, and thus, in the gloom and death of the night, we stared at one another. What a doleful night! How anxious! How dismal! How long! There was an inhospitable smell in the room, of cold soot and hot dust. And then, as I looked up into the corners of the test over my head, I thought what a number of bluebottle flies from the butcher's, and earwigs from the market, and grubs from the country must be holding on up there, by for next summer. This led me to speculate whether any of them ever tumbled down. Thought, suggesting other and more objectionable approaches at my back. When I had lain awake a little while, those extraordinary voices with which silence teams began to make themselves audible. The closet whispered, the fireplace sighed, the little washing stand ticked, and one guitar string played occasionally in the chest of drawers. At about the same time, the eyes on the wall acquired a new expression, and in every one of those staring rounds I saw written, "Don't go home." Whatever night fancies and night noises crowded on me, they never warded off this "don't go home." It plated itself into whatever I thought of, as a bodily pain would have done. Not long before, I had read in the newspapers how a gentleman unknown had come to the Hammams in the night, and had gone to bed, and had destroyed himself, and had been found in the morning weltering in blood. It came into my head that he must have occupied this very vault of mine. Alright. Then opened the door to look out into the passages, and cheer myself with the companionship of a distant light, near which I knew the chamberlain to be dozing. But all this time, why I was not to go home, and what had happened at home, and when I should go home, and whether Purvis was safe at home, were questions occupying my mind so busily. A their theme, even when I thought of Estella, and how we had parted that day forever. And when I recalled all the circumstances of our parting, and all her looks and tones, and the action of her fingers while she knitted Ivan then I was pursuing, here and there and everywhere, the caution, "Don't go home." When at last I dozed, in sheer exhaustion of mind and body, it became a vast shadowy verb which I had to conjugate. Imperative mood. Present tense. Do not thou go home. Let him not go home. Let us not go home. Do not ye or you go home. Let not them go home. Then potentially, I may not and I cannot go home. And I might not, could not, would not, and should not go home, until I felt that I was going distracted, and rolled over on the pillow, and looked at the stirring rounds upon the wall again. I had left directions that I was to be called at 7, for it was plain that I must see Wemmick before seeing anyone else. Taken. So miserable. Bed. The castle battlement arose upon my view at 8 o'clock. The little servant happening to be entering the fortress with 2 hot rolls. I passed through the postern and crossed the drawbridge in her company. For himself and the aged. An open door afforded a perspective view of the aged in bed. Hello. Mister. Well, said Wemmick. You did come home. Yes, I returned. That's all right, said he, rubbing his hands. I left a note for you at each of the temple gates. On the chance. I told him. Note, said Wemmick. It's a good rule never to leave documentary evidence if you can help it, because you don't know when it may be put in. I'm going to take a liberty with you. I said I should be delighted to do it. Then you can go about your work. Marianne, said Wemmick to the little servant, which leaves us to ourselves. Don't you see? Mister. He added, when can, as she disappeared. I thanked him for his friendship and caution, and our discourse proceeded in a low tone, while I toasted the aged sausage and he buttered the crumb of the aged roll. Anne. Mister. In. You know, said Wemmick. You and I understand one another. We are in our private and personal capacities, and we have been engaged in a confidential transaction before today. Official sentiments are one thing. I cordially assent. I was so very nervous that I had already lighted the sausage like a torch, and been obliged to blow it out. I accidentally heard. Yesterday morning, said Wemmick, being in a certain place where I once took you in between you and me. Much better not, said I. I heard that by chance. Yesterday morning, said Wemmick, that a certain person not altogether of uncolonial pursuits. Not necessary, said I. Many people go, not always in gratification of their own inclinations. In watching his face, I made quite a firework of the aged sausage, and greatly discomposed both my own attention and Wemmick's, for which I apologized. by disappearing from such a place, and being no more heard of thereabouts. From which, said Wemmick, conjectures had been raised and theories formed. I also heard that you at your chambers in Garden Court, Temple, had been watched. Why, said I wouldn't go into that, said Wemmick, evasively. It might clash with official responsibilities. I heard it, as I have in my time heard other curious things in the same place. I don't tell it you on information received. He took the distinct fork and sausage from me as he spoke, and set forth the aged's breakfast neatly on a little tray. Previous to placing it before him, he went into the aged's room with a clean white cloth, and tied the same under the old gentleman's chin, and propped him up, and put his nightcap on one side, and gave him quite a rakish air. Then he placed his breakfast before him with great care, and said, "All right, ain't you, H.P.?" To which the cheerful aged replied, "All right, Tano, my boy," in a presentable state, and was therefore to be considered invisible. I made a pretence of being in complete ignorance of these proceedings. I said to Wemmick when he came back, "Is inseparable from the person to whom you have adverted." Wemmick looked very serious. To be continued.